My friends often tell me that I can be pretty intense when it comes to learning new things. And although I'm pretty sure that is true in some respect, I myself don't actually notice it being a thing unless I have just experienced some period of creative stagnation. And I know that sounds a little counterintuitive, but what I'm mainly focusing on is what I do to get out of those states of feeling creatively void. So either I try something totally new, and that could mean a lot of different things, but just something I've never tried before. And then there's also the other situation of where it's something that I know how to do, but I'm just trying a different technique of that thing that I already know how to do. And that could be something like trying a new recipe or a new workout, for example. Or the second thing that I tend to do in these creative voids is that I tend to go out and try to learn something new. So usually, and yes, this is pretty on brand for me, I know, I'll try to learn a new math concept or something very mathematical and algorithmic even, whether that be just plain math or doing a little bit of computer science. Or in other cases, I might dive into a new language to try and change the structure of my thinking at that point in time to try to spur some creativity. Or, and apparently cooking comes up in both of these situations, I'll try to experiment with cooking foods from a different cuisine or a different style of cooking altogether. So the reason I'm bringing all of this up is because this actually happened to me last night. I was sitting in front of my computer trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I was just in one of these states of voided creativity. And usually how we get to the whole trying a new skill or trying to learn something new part of this endeavor of trying to escape the creative void, I will write down a list of dumb ideas. And this time, the first thing I wrote down was, why don't I try to learn everything I can about neural networks in a week? So first off, large task. Yes, people do their whole master's or PhD on it. So luckily I was waving my hand a little bit with the whole everything deal and the everything deal here. But the goals here are to, one, generally understand, and generally here being a mathematical term, generally understand the definitions behind what a neural network is and how that fits into the complex that is machine learning and that whole buzzword in both the workforce and in computer science at some level, right? And then two would be to build a simple neural network or machine learning algorithm thing that I can answer a small problem with. Sure, it won't be everything in terms of like 42 is the answer to the universe, everything, but it'll be everything in that, like, I'll have a very general idea of what this thing is, and I could build almost anything that I wanted to off of that understanding later on. So day one and some change, because I started this like way late on a Sunday and went into a Monday with it. I pretty much just asked, well, I need to figure out what the foundational thing is about neural networks that's important to know about. And everywhere I looked, the neural network sort of structure that everyone sort of talked about was this thing called a perceptron. And so perceptrons came up a lot, and the idea of an artificial neuron came up a lot. So if you're not sure what a perceptron is, it's this ugly graph thing here that looks really intense. And really, it's just that there's a lot of stuff going on in it. It's not like multiple different structures at play. It's just one very large structure that surprisingly was actually pretty accessible. And if you have some understanding of linear algebra and just some basic differential calculus, you would be able to understand these as well, at least as far as I've read so far on them. An artificial neuron is really just like the box and then everything that connects out to the left of it, going backwards in the perceptron. So you have inputs for the perceptron, which are the previous column, and then you have the parameters of the neuron, which is the connectors from each of those inputs into the box that will be the output of the neuron. And so it's actually better to think of these artificial neurons as functions. The other thing is that there is this big analogy between a biological neuron and a artificial neuron. So the first thing I noticed about neural networks and sort of this like base object of machine learning algorithms from an artificial neurological perspective was that the math required wasn't that intense. At least I was expecting it to be more intense, but the math that is being used here is just some differential calculus and linear algebra, which I thought was really cool because this makes this topic a lot more accessible. It's something that someone that is maybe like a higher level high school student or a early undergrad would be able to reasonably understand. The other thing was that the computer science / coding stuff that I needed was also pretty friendly. So there wasn't really a complex data structure that I needed to know in a particular coding language or anything like that. I could do it in several different coding languages if I wanted to. I chose to do it in Python. That was cool. And the other thing that I needed to know in order to make this work was the Perceptron Scheme. And so this perceptron schema isn't so much as like a function or anything that needs to be put in place. It's more just like the structure of the algorithm that will be at play. So you've got some inputs, you've got some weights, and then those go in together to form the net input function. And then the net input function outputs something that is put through an activation function that tells you your output of your artificial neurological process. So day 2 didn't totally happen. We can just take a look at my notes here. So although I wasn't working on this actively on day 2, I was playing like 3 Blue 1 Brown's neural networking videos and a few other creators' neural networking videos because I wanted to have like confirmation that my intuition from day 1 was correct. And luckily, a lot of that was. I didn't have a lot of things that I needed to adjust. I did learn a little bit more about how the networks themselves can learn and how you can get a network to learn either by like human intervention or you can do a like supplied data set that has all of the information self-contained without human intervention, which was pretty interesting. But day 2 kind of just like, So day 3, the migration from theory to application can be a bit of a mess a lot of the time. After doing some searching, I was able to find this 11-line example of a program. And I spent a little bit of time on the 3rd day just like parsing that out and figuring out how that correlated to the structure and intuition that I had around neural networks. It took a little bit, but it was actually pretty eye-opening into just like understanding the algorithm at play here and what certain things were going on that I hadn't really focused on much before. So like what was the choice of activation function in the code, and also what learning rate or how many learning steps did they decide to take with their training data. So at the end of day 3, I felt like I had a really good understanding of the algorithm that I needed to implement in terms of the code, and also how to go about running the data through the neural network I would build in order to train that neural network to do a thing. The only thing that I didn't really understand was like what would happen if part of this was broken. And so what I mean by that is that if say you have a decision problem that has 2 solutions, it's either yes or no. If you can take your data and imagine that data lives on a plane, if you can draw a line through that plane and decide yes or no on that data by picking one of the sides of the line you drew, then a perceptron is going to be able to do that. Is this a little bit more complicated because most of the data sets that we're working with are higher dimensional and you're going to have to use a hyperplane instead of a line? Yeah, but I digress. The point of that is that if your data isn't nicely separable, apparently something would go wrong. And I wanted to see what that thing going wrong would look like. So I wanted to see that, but I also didn't know what data to look for. And so I just went with my gut, because usually in these things, when I go with my gut and try to find like data or an example to use, it turns out to be a bad example, especially when I'm trying to apply something. So the first data set that I thought to look for was actually Hungarian words lists. And I got lucky because I didn't find necessarily a Hungarian words list, but I found 10,000 Hungarian sentences in an Anki deck or Anki, it's a language learning sort of like flashcard thing that I haven't really ever used, but I know it's a thing because I've done language stuff before anyway. Not the point. The point is that I had 10,000 things that I thought were data, and I was like, oh, I can extract words from this. The problem with that, and the problem with my idea of using words as the input into this thing, was that I would have to translate those words into numeric arrays in a meaningful way, and that requires a understanding of natural language processing, which I don't really have because I don't really do a lot of natural language processing coding. So a lot of what I did was very naive and mundane. And so I broke words up into things like word length and how many letters were repeated in the word and how many repeats were there and how many different letters were in the word, which doesn't really tell you anything descriptive about the word's language. And this was great because if I wanted to see what was going wrong with a perceptron when you don't provide it with a linearly separable set of things, all I had to do was add on a numeric value for the language of that word, which in this case was Hungarian, and then find a list of English words. And apparently there are websites on the internet where you can just type in a number and it will spit out that many random English words. So I did that as well and put it through the same process to pull out those word statistics and then assigned it a language value. So I fed it my bad data, and I always would get an output of 1. And to me, that sort of made sense on an intuitive level. So for example, you can have words in Hungarian like tudod and vagy, and you can also have English words like there and want. And tudod and there will have the same word statistics, other than tudod will be a 0 for Hungarian and there will be a 1 for English. Similarly, vagy will be a 0 for Hungarian and want will be a 1 for English. And yes, I know that the GY in vagy is actually one letter in the Hungarian alphabet, but for simplicity of coding, I just treated it as 2 different letters. So when we take those 4 words and their statistics along with the rest of the word data, we're going to get something that isn't entirely linearly separable. And so you can think of this as like you draw a graph, you draw a line, and you split the data into 2 groups. And that would be what it would be like if they were linearly separable. On one side of the line, you could say it's 0, it's Hungarian, and on the other side of the line, you could say it's 1, it's English. But if it's not linearly separable, then there is no line that separates those 2 groups. And so after the machine is done learning about your data set, it can't distinguish things from each other. So it's like there's no line is there and everything lives in the same group. And so you would get 1 for everything. So that was the end of the 5th day. I don't know. I wanted to learn something because I was feeling creatively just blah, and I decided to make something with it. So sure, I didn't really get into the nitty-gritty of the formalism and stuff behind what these neural networks are, but I sort of just wanted to explain, I guess in some respects, this is how I learn things. But yeah, if you'd enjoyed this video and liked seeing me and my process of how I broke down trying to approach and attack learning everything I could about neural networks in 5 days or a week, I guess a work week, then give this video a thumbs up, and you can also subscribe for more mathematics content. Yeah, you can subscribe for all of that stuff. As always, I am Nathan. This was Chalk, and apparently I learned some other things about videos because I just love this video clip. And I will see you next time.